We are live, ladies and gentlemen. It is, of course, Tuesday, the 18th of October, 2011. Ron Paul has unveiled his new $1 trillion cut in the budget, cuts across the board in welfare, corporate welfare, military defense spending, all of it. That's big news. We've got the neocons and the desperate Obamanoids trying to become politically popular again, trying to launch a distractionary war against Iran right now that has still got a green light, but more and more people are coming out, pointing out that the Iranian assassination plot was completely phony. That is all unfolding right now. Obviously, the Federal Reserve of San Antonio requested formally, and last night on the nightly news we showed that YouTube communique notice that the Federal Reserve had requested that the video where they admit that the Federal Reserve is private be removed. I left the video up and challenged it, and it's before a YouTube review board right now and could be taken down or couldn't be. No one really knows how these things work, but it just shows the Federal Reserve always engaged in attempts to silence free speech in this country. But the jig is up. The genie is out of the bottle. The train has left the station. Once the private Federal Reserve is identified as private, it's over. Once people understand that they got rid of U.S. senators being elected at the state level by the legislature, at the same time they brought in the income tax, that we got the Federal Reserve, and that all of this is about power grabbing, ending states' rights, ending our republic, and transferring power to a private global corporate government that is now in its final moves to bankrupt the entire world. It's also in the press today that the European Union, by next Monday, will announce its new massive restructuring. But they've already told the world it is a private bank of the world based in Europe that the once sovereign nations that signed on to the EU will pay their taxes to, all these new taxes, and that the countries will never be allowed to exit again, and that no vote by the people can extricate them. It is classical tyranny, classical occupation, but under the rubric of financial occupation. It is unbelievable tyranny. But because it doesn't come in the form of soldiers on the street corners with submachine guns and political dissidents being drug off and tanks rolling across your borders and your capital being taken over and a foreign flag being run up, because it's not a conquering army like Hitler or Stalin rolling into Eastern Europe, or Napoleon before them, or William the Conqueror going into England. Because it's not a classical invasion and takeover, people don't understand how to respond to it. I liken it to dodo birds. When Western sailors arrived on the island where the dodo birds were, and the dodo birds were completely domesticated and did not fear humans. And so the sailors could just go conk them on the head and get a good fresh meal out of them. Of course, people that study nature, naturalists and others have pointed out, and there's a lot of documentaries about small uninhabited islands that have goats on them that have been put there hundreds of years before by sailors, or natural deer, or wild pigs, or pickerings, other species, that they're not afraid of humans. They'll walk right up to you, and you can conk them on the head and eat them. And generally, it takes a while for them. You'll walk right over and conk them on the head, or shoot them, or spear them, and others will watch as you eat them. And generally, one or two get smart and run off, and then they'll produce the new stock. That it's like, once animals aren't afraid of you, once they're either domesticated or never been in contact with humans, they're just totally unaware. And that's what's happening. Globalism is a modern spin on every form of conquering tyranny this planet's ever seen. And it's a political domination. It's a corporate domination. Now, we've seen by stealth moves of cultural domination by groups, by religions, by ideas that can also happen by semi-stealth. That's not new, but this corporate creeping Machiavellian system is certainly new in the last 100 years, and that's why people aren't aware of it. But your taxes, the regulations, how your police dress, what the laws are, what land you can own, what businesses you can operate, what type of things you can sell, carbon taxes, all run by this new, quote, financial private union that they're likening to the Marshall Plan. Well, that was just the West going into Europe, England and the U.S., the Anglo-American Empire, and simply taking Europe into receivership. But they still couldn't get rid of the sovereignty itself, so they set up the trade agreements that brought them into the euro, and already over 80% of their laws, Lord Monkton's corrected me, it's over 70, and I'm always saying 70%, it's well over 80% now, or what did he say, 5 out of 6 laws on record are just created by private bureaucrats who were all finance capital bankers, the opposite of free market. So that's what we're facing here right now. Now, here's an example of stealth cultural takeover, and then I'm going to cover a few other news items and give the number out for listeners to call in about. I spent probably 2 hours of the 3-hour radio show yesterday talking about being down here on the Texas-Mexico border, where the people are now scared of the drug cartels. They're scared of the police. I've never seen such groveling. I was about 3 miles away from the Mexican border 2 days ago out on a little charter boat I got for my family to go do some fishing. And I ended up just saying, give me a tour, basically around Padre Island, South Padre Island. And every time they saw a Homeland Security boat, an ICE boat, a Coast Guard boat, I mean, there was literal stepping and fetching and groveling and bowing down and cutting engines when they even drove by at 300, 400 yards away. And I would say, I've never seen this before. I've been deep sea fishing and bay fishing all over Texas and other parts of the country. And they said, yeah, if you don't cut your engines when they come around anywhere, then they board you and get in your face now. And literally these men would just drive by in these black uniforms, just bugging their eyes out at a little charter boat with 2 guys on it. I mean, it is letting you know you're a slave. Now, while all of this is going on, Mexico in 3 years has 40,000+ dead, 5,000 dead on this side, so 45,000. There have been gunfights, gun battles. Newspapers, TV stations have been threatened here. In the Brownsville, McAllen, Kingsville, South Padre area. They admit they won't report on it now. And a lot of people, instead of getting angry at the Mexican cartels and mad at the Mexican government and its expansionist aims, which is really funny. You've got a collapsing, failed state that for 40 years has taught in the schools that our own State Department has financed, and the Ford Foundation as well. We've shown these on air, that the Southwest belongs to Mexico and that it's going to be a racial kingdom for Hispanics, when Hispanics, whites, blacks are all completely integrating and getting along in business and general life and intermarrying. I mean, but it doesn't matter. You've got America that's been taught to be anti-national sovereignty, lowering our immune system to foreign powers, okay, and to cultural assimilation and domination. They're not assimilating into the republic or the free market or the Second Amendment culture. No, Mexico, and this is taught in public. This was taught at Anderson High School. I went to high school a couple years in Dallas, a couple in Austin. This was taught, and I'm going to get to the news here in a minute. This was taught here in Austin, Texas, 20 years ago when I was in high school. And it was taught by my white history teacher and by my white art teacher that America was bad, it belonged to Mexico, and that soon the Southwest would be Aslan. Because it's all Ford Foundation programming. And we were taken to UT, the art class, and taught all this stuff. And I stood up and said, I'm not putting up with this. Mexico does all these horrible things to immigrants and, and as a kleptocracy. I got up this morning and saw the monitor, the McAllen monitor, And it says Spanish class riles parents. And of course, it was Glenn Beck that broke this. You're not going to see this broken in a local newspaper. And it goes on to say Glenn Beck, the father, played the video. The school's defending it. We're going to get this up at Infowars.com. TheMonitor.com has the video. And I'm going to get Kurt Nemo. In fact, let's ask Kurt to post this right now. Spanish class riles parents. Then you read it. They are taught Mexican history in the Spanish class. They're taught America stole all the land. That's the real issue. It's Mexican government Ford Foundation. Why would the big elite banks private foundation want this? It's to break up America. You know, they're going to wreck Mexico with divide and conquer. They're going to wreck us with it as well. And it goes on to say that they give the Spanish national anthem and pledge allegiance to Mexico. But it goes further, ladies and gentlemen. This is taught everywhere. This is taught in Illinois. This is taught in New York. If your class is 20% Spanish speaking, it's taught. And I've seen a lot of Puerto Ricans and others that have shot video that are offended by it. They're like, number one, I'm from Brazil or I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm not Mexican. But when you take a Spanish class now, you're taught you are now a Mexican. This is Mexico. It's because Mexico is one of the most nationalistic countries in the world, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing at the end of the day. America used to be like that. America is, very macho, but so is Mexico. And now America's been taught, we've seen it all over the country where you can't wear an American flag on your Old Navy shirt. Hispanic kids can't in San Francisco. They're kicked out. You've seen the American flags torn down at post offices and private businesses and Mexican flags run up and the American flag stomped on because it's taught in the schools. We'll be right back with more of this report. Stay with us.
You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep crisis. Everyone can feel it. We know a tectonic struggle is now taking place between the forces of freedom and those who love darkness, bondage, and enslavement. Yes, my friends, evil is rising. But take heart. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Recently, New World Order operative Hillary Clinton admitted they're losing the info war.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
The globalists are scared. They've overreached. The future of the info war is in your hands. Join prisonplanet.tv. Download the thousands of special video reports, ebooks, and more, and get them out to everyone you know. Continue to spread the word about the broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other globalist propaganda platform. We are going to use their system against them. The info war now goes into high gear.